Hi, I'm Kate Herron, and welcome back to the Sarah O'Connell Show.
Welcome to the Sarah O'Connell Show.
Kate Herron, welcome back to the Sarah O'Connell Show. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm talking to you live from my childhood bedroom, and I'm happy to be back in London and England, and it's so exciting just seeing the response the show's getting, and it's weird to be finished. I've been working on it a long time, so.
Absolutely. And have you adjusted to the time difference in the UK yet? Are you still a little bit jet lagged?
No. My jet lag is so bad. I am trying, but I think I'll be adjusted at some point. It's my own doing, though. I just keep playing games till like 3 a.m. So it's my own.
Much, I can relate to that. Well, if they do keep making them, it's only rude if you don't play them, isn't it? Right?
Exactly.
I am loving Loki on Disney Plus. You are, of course, the director and executive producer of the show. Can you tell me, first of all, how did you get involved working with Marvel?
Yeah, so basically I found that they were making a show about Loki, and I love his character, and I was like, oh, I have to get involved in this somehow. And I think partly there was like the fan perspective that was like, what's happening? What are they going to do to him? Is he still, he's still alive? What's happening? Where's he gone? And so I wanted to know for that reason. And but also I love the character and was like, oh man, I'd love a chance to just see what his story is and be a part of that if I feel like I could be a good fit. And so I asked my agents, I was like, please just call them like every day, because obviously I'd done a teen show called Sex Education, but I hadn't done anything as a director anyway that had a lot of big genre in it. I'd only really done that as a writer. So for me, it was like really key just to get in the room and chat to them about it. And I think that when I met them, they had the first 2 scripts that were early drafts, and I was just like, already these are fantastic, and I was just so excited and inspired by everything in there, and then the arc of the rest of the show. And I kind of went off from those and did this massive pitch, and I think it was meant to be like a casual conversation, but I just didn't know how many chats I would have with them. And so I got all these reference images for like the TVA, the technology, the characters, casting ideas, music ideas, some story ideas, questions I had on the scripts in places. So I kind of just came armed with like a big download from my brain and was like, if you hire me, this is what you get. So, and it worked, luckily. So
I know what I need to do if I want to make a Howard the Duck TV show in the future.
Exactly.
The one question I've been wondering for ages is, in Avengers Endgame, Loki disappears. Was that inserted because they had an idea to make a TV show with Loki, or was it just to keep the character in the mix and their options open in the future?
Do you know what? I actually don't know. I think you'd have to ask Marvel that exact question. I mean, obviously, it has led on to that. I would assume so, but I don't know, to be honest. That's more of like, the master Kevin Feige at work. So I'm not sure. But yeah.
So Tom Hiddleston is phenomenal as Loki and has so much range as well. He can be menacing or humorous or adorable in just, one scene. What is Tom like to work with?
Oh, he's a joy. He's like really charming, really lovely, very kind. I think the kindness thing is what radiates, because, like we made this show in extraordinary circumstances, because we started making it in the first half of the year. And then like everyone, obviously we had to stop what we were doing, like, pencils down and go isolate. And we were lucky to return to work during this time, but it was hard, like we had to all isolate. We had to follow a lot of safety restrictions. But Tom has such joy that he just brings the set every day. It almost like made you forget like the world outside, if you see what I mean. It was just really, I think as well, like, because he's our star, and I do think whoever your like lead actor is, they really can dictate the mood on set, and it really echoes across everyone. And I've been lucky to work with like some really fantastic actors, because I think that, like I worked with Idris Elba, and he was the same, and like he, like the mood he brings is because it's like, he's the number one. So I think that for me it was so exciting, because he just, I think, really united everyone as a team, and he always brings his A game in the sense that he always wants to tell the best story. He always wants to give 110%. And I think because everyone knows, like obviously everyone was excited about making the show, but I think because he's bringing 110%, it's like, well, I need to match this person. And I think that definitely echoed across everyone on the show.
I love how even from the first few scenes you start to learn more about Loki. So he always projects himself as being a really confident person. Then when it's suggested that he could be a robot, he questions that like straight away. Is he a robot and doesn't know it? So I love all the small details like that were put into the show.
Yeah, I think it's so fun, right? Because we wanted it to feel like, I know that because we obviously some of our writing team are American and some of them are British, and for me as a British person, I wanted it to feel like going through the airport or like, you know, or like trying to do something, because it just made me laugh. Sometimes they ask you questions and it's like, oh, I don't think I've done that, or I don't know, oh God, please just let me through. But it's like, I thought that was it's almost human, right? I know he's not a human, but it's very relatable to us as humans. Someone being like, well, what if I'm a robot and I didn't know it was a robot? Because
it's like this capture test you get online and it says, do this to prove you're not a robot, and you get it wrong and then you start wondering about it.
Yeah, or like when automatic doors don't open for me sometimes, I'm like, do I have a soul? Do I not have a soul? I don't know, that's the basis for automatic doors. I think I heard that in a cartoon or something, but I'm always very like, oh God, I'm not here, I'm not real, when the doors won't open. But yeah, no, it's just a broken door. But anyway.
Exactly. Now, Owen Wilson is different to how we've ever seen him in any TV show or film. Do you know if he was a fan of Marvel before signing on for Loki?
I'm not sure how much he had seen. I know he'd seen Black Panther. But yeah, I think he was relatively new to the world of Marvel. I know he has 2 young sons, obviously, so and they like watching it. But yeah, I think he was kind of new to it. But in a way, it was really fun, right? Because he brought these really like fresh eyes and perspective to it. And it was really fun kind of just telling him about, you know, the story. Because I remember when I spoke to him about the role, we had this really long phone call and there was a pressure on me because obviously the team were like, okay, you're going to call Owen and we're going to get him. And I was like, yep, gonna make that happen. And like, so I was like, I've got to persuade him. But he was lovely. And honestly, I think because we spoke about Loki's arc across the last 10 years and how I spoke about how that worked across Marvel, and then we spoke about obviously Loki's arc in our show and how his character fitted into that, and the TVA and who were the TVA, and like, yes, so there was a lot to unpack there. And but I think that was really fun for me. And you know, Tom did a thing called Loki School when he first joined, and it was basically sort of this thing we devised, but basically because he's an encyclopedia of Loki, and he was like, oh, maybe I could talk to some people, and I was like, yes, I was like, you should do like a Loki lecture, because and it was great. But Owen found out about this and was like, oh, I want the Loki lecture. And so him and Owen actually sat in a room together, and Tom did it again to him. But it was actually great because his character is a Loki expert, so he was hearing about Loki from the actual experts. So so I think that was really fun, just kind of that. And then Owen was away really, but no, I think I think he had a good time like filming on set for sure, and just kind of throwing himself into this big wide world of Marvel.
So when Loki watches his theoretical future in the Time Theatre, of course, this is 2012 Loki, but does seeing what happens to him in the future bring him back up to where his character arc and progression was in Avengers Endgame, or is he still very much the 2012 Loki after seeing it?
I think he's sort of somewhere in between, right? Because like there's something interesting in that, you know, he sees the, you know, even just the bit with his brother, right? I'm here. And that shows like, oh, okay, there was room for change. We got past our differences, and I have room for growth and change. And there's a world where I could be friends with my brother, or I could reconcile with my father. And I think that was really important for him to see, that there's room for growth. He might not have had that growth, but just that kind of thing of, you know, like, you aren't all bad. and I think that was really important for our Loki to see, because our whole show is about, you know, his identity and like, you know, good and evil. And like, you know, we took Loki at his most evil from Avengers, but then it's like, okay, well, is he going to go on the same journey as the Loki we have seen before? No, he won't, because he's a different, and he's on a different path now. But I think for me, that's really the sweet spot, right? Is like, in what ways will his arc be similar and which ways will they not be? And I think people will see like characteristics that maybe feel a bit familiar to them, but are a little bit different, because it isn't same Loki. So yeah, that was really just kind of the character study and interrogation we did across the whole show. So yeah.
And so Miss Minutes speaks about this vast multiversal war that happened in the past. Now, of course, the TVA is set at the end of time, and it's kind of implied it happened in the past, but has it actually happened to the current MCU timeline, or is that multiversal war something that's still to come?
No, so it's basically, in terms of our show, the idea is that, yeah, that it was at the beginning of time, and then obviously the Timekeepers came and they, you know, solved it and they put all the timeline now into this like sacred timeline to manage that, and so that doesn't happen again. So that's kind of, I guess, in the sense of anyone had questions about it, the Miss Minutes video basically lays out where things are at least in terms of the bigger MCU discussion as well.
But more important than a multiversal war, now that there's a multiverse, can Miss Minutes meet Mr. DNA?
I hope. I mean, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Right? Just a series of that, just explaining stuff to each other.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. I'd be intrigued to see would they get on, would they not get on, and like, yeah, because we never see Mr. DNA outside his day job. You know, he's always just talking about Dino DNA. So it'd be nice to see like off camera. You know,
what do his friends call him?
Yeah, exactly.
So I love that you've officially made Loki bisexual in the MCU. How did Marvel react to the idea of that? And also, I love that you've done that during Pride Month.
Yeah, they were really welcoming of it. It was something very important, and it's just, yeah, like for me it was very important. And you know, like in the comics, like he's been written as bi, he's been written as pan, and like I think for me it was just acknowledging that side of him, but obviously finding a way to do it in the right way. But because our whole show is about identity, and I was like, well, let's just at least acknowledge it. And I think for me it's always like, well, in some ways I'm like, it can feel like a small step because we're just acknowledging it through something he said, but at the same time it's actually a big step because, you know, for some people it's mega. And I think if I saw that when I was like 10 and tiny, it would be massive for me to feel seen in that way. And yeah, and like seeing some people, like when I posted about it, were like, oh, this helped me actually like come out to my family. And yeah, and some other people were like, you know, in the country I'm from where I've seen this is mega. So yeah, so I think I feel very proud that we got to do that, and I'm just happy that it's canon now like it is in the comics.
Yeah, and visibility is really important. So my next question is about Silvie. Now Silvie really doesn't want to be called a Loki at any point. Can you tell me, is Silvie a Loki variant, or is she perhaps inspired by the Enchantress, or does she have elements of various characters all sort of squashed together?
So Silvie, I would say, like, I know the writers took inspiration from lots of different places, but she's definitely like a wholly unique character. But she is a Loki in the sense that, you know, she's not, one of the writers, Alyssa, said it really well. She's like, she's not Lady Loki, but she's a lady who is a Loki. Right. So I think that's a good way to summarize her, because this is like a unique story for her. And obviously, you know, in the first episode and second episode, they're tracking a Loki. So we know that's within who she is. But I think the bigger question is, okay, well, but she's not, though, because, you know, the identity crisis kind of thing is really interesting for me because, you know, like she's dyed her hair blonde. But I think that also plays into the idea that, you know, she's on the run, and also she is Silvie in a sense. And, you know, the blonde was also, it made sense for her story within our story. Sorry, that made no sense. A story within our story, but it made sense in the sense that she's on the run and that, you know, she was trying to disguise herself. But then on the bigger aspect of it, it's an homage, you know, to like Silvie from the comics. And she isn't that character either. But I think it was just fun to take elements of these, you know, what the writers had placed. And as people will see as the show unfolds, like, yeah, we'll learn more about who is Silvie and where does she come from, and yeah, what's her deal, basically.
So we haven't seen Richard Iguan in the series yet. He's credited with 3 episodes. I'm very much looking forward to seeing them. But what was he like to work with?
He's a joy. Yeah. Really lovely. Just really, I mean, With Nail and I is like one of my favorite films. So yeah, so I was like, oh, I don't know what it's gonna be like, but I'd heard that he was a joy, and he's a joy. He's absolutely lovely. So yeah.
Well, your favorite Easter eggs on the show, I've noticed things like the alien font and the computers. Is there anything else that you loved?
Oh, I'm just trying to think now. I was really happy with I spoke about it a lot, but the 7 reference we had in episode 2. Yeah. There's some later ones that I'm really proud of. So like, but I don't want to spoil them for people. And I always, it's funny because like part of me was like, oh, should I go online? And like, but then I'm like, no, because like, to be honest, like I love watching like the fan response to the show and like the deep dives people do in it, because obviously we plant these Easter eggs, but I feel like it's almost like an Easter egg hunt, right? It's a reward. You don't want like the bunny to be like, here you go. So I don't know, I'm like the bunny in this scenario. It's like a weird analogy, but I think for me, I think it's exciting getting to dig and like solve the mystery basically. And I think I kind of sometimes give a few, like, you know, like the Iron Man, it's not really an Easter egg, it's more just like a cool like visual reference to that at the beginning of the show, that I just filmed it in the same way. And yeah, so I think we've definitely put them across the show. But I would say the 7 one is in the archives, when, you know, we do the pan across the bookcases, and we also use the same needle drop track. So yeah, so basically that's one I'm proud of. But yeah, I'm stumbling, so I'm like, I don't want to ruin anything. So yeah.
So I know that you managed to keep a fake rock from the show, but did you manage to take away any other souvenirs or props from Loki?
So I can actually talk about this now. So in Sharu, we had foam rocks that like fell on people, obviously like our stunt people. But I remember when I was a kid, I went to the magic behind the movies. I think it was like Universal or something. But I remember that they had like foam rocks that fell on people. And I remember being like, that's cinema. But anyway, we had the same rocks when we were filming Sharu. And I I was like, oh my, this is so amazing. But Kevin Feige, basically, he was like, Kate, you should take a rock. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, you can take a foam rock home. And I was like, oh my God, that'd be so amazing. So yes, I have that rock. I also have a Lamentus train ticket as well. They were very beautifully designed, and I very cheekily was like, can I have a train ticket? So yeah, but no, that's kind of it. Like I didn't actually, I should have taken more swag really, but I didn't really take much. I think I was just so happy to be there. I was like, I didn't want to be like Loki director gets fired for stealing, I don't know, like TVA.
The entire set in your house.
Yeah. I did try and get one thing though, but I think it was going to something else, but I was like, damn it. But no, I mean, the show in itself, I guess, is my, you know, my swag. I don't know.
Oh, exactly. And so the MCU is famous for its end credit scenes. We haven't had one yet, and WandaVision waited till towards the end. Is there a chance we might get an end credit scene at some point?
Just say people have to keep watching.
Okay, fine, I will.
It's a very cheeky answer from me. So.
Got yourself a deal. Do you think that Loki can ever rejoin the main MCU timeline, or do you think he'll be off having his own separate adventures from now on?
I think in terms of our story, right, like I think for now it's just like, how does he get out of Sharu? So yeah, beyond that we'll have to see.
I know that Marvel is famously secretive about all the future projects they're working on, but when you're working on Loki, did they give you an idea about how the show would fit into forthcoming projects as well, and how that might impact their storylines?
I would say honestly they're very secretive, and I think there were things that sometimes we would wonder like, oh, will this have a ripple effect? But honestly, I think basically we had so Kevin Wright on the show is our executive, but he works for Marvel, obviously. So that was really like, you know, beyond just being an amazing producer and helping us steer story, like he was like our, you know, our Marvel person on set. So, you know, I think that's something they do across all their productions, is they have someone kind of managing and making sure and checking in with the other productions. So no, it's I don't know anything. So like they're very good at keeping secrets. But yeah, I think it was more just, if we were okay to do something, we would do it. But we never really felt restricted though in terms of story, to be honest. I think for them it's always, if it works well for story, then we'll work it out on anything else that it could have a ripple effect on. So
now Loki season 2 is reportedly already in pre-production, and rumors about it may be filming next year. Would you like to stay working on Loki if there's more of it, or would you like to explore more of the MCU if possible?
I think, to be honest, like I can't speak to anything else with Loki, because I would say that's definitely a Marvel question, because like I was on for season 1 of this show, and I'm very happy to have done it. And I think we definitely, as far as I'm aware, like it's a very complete story, and I'm really proud of it. I'd love to work with Marvel again. I mean, to be honest, my main thing at the moment is just rest, because I've been on this for 2 years now. So I'm just like, yeah, just going to have a nice sleep and enjoy the response to our show. And
it's well earned, of course. So my final 2 questions. Firstly, can you tell me a fun fact about you, something we may not know, a hobby, a party trick, something like that?
Oh, okay. I'm literally, like I said, I'm in my childhood bedroom. Let me have a look what's in here. What can I tell you about myself? God, fun fact about me. Okay, I like karaoke. I'm good at singing. So there's like something unexpected. I'm like shy and dorky. It doesn't make sense, but for some reason
after lockdown, we're going to have to do some karaoke.
I love it, honestly. I love a karaoke.
It's the best.
There you go.
And it's the best audience too, because normally they're quite drunk and they don't really care.
Is that perfect? Perfect.
So my final question is, have you got any messages for people watching the Sarah O'Connell show and your fans around the world?
Oh, just, yeah, thanks for watching the Sarah O'Connell show, and thank you so much for listening to me ramble on. Hopefully my jet lag, there was sense amongst what I was saying. Yeah, and just thank you for watching the show. Honestly, it's been amazing, the response, and yeah, it's just really exciting to see everyone's reactions to it.
Well, Kate Herron, thank you so much for coming on my show today. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm absolutely loving Loki, and I can't wait to see what happens next tonight.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody watching at home. Be sure to share, subscribe, give this video a big thumbs up, and leave lots of lovely comments. And I'll see you all again soon for another episode of the Sarah O'Connell Show. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.